How to change thinking without forcing change. Now, most advice tells you what to say, what to fix, and what to correct. But Quiet Leadership by David Rock flips this on its head. Because the fastest way to change behavior is not telling people what to do, it's helping them think differently. Today, we're going to break down how the brain actually works, why change feels so hard, and a 6-step framework for unlocking insight, motivation, and performance without pressure. Part 1. How thinking really works. The brain is a mapping machine. The brain isn't designed for truth. It's designed for efficiency and predictability. David Rock describes the brain as a connection machine, a network of maps joined by neural pathways based on past experiences. Every experience helps to build this map. How meetings are going to work, what conflict means and how we react, what success feels like. When new information arrives, the brain doesn't ask, is this true? It asks, does this fit my existing map? If it fits, it sticks. If it doesn't, it's ignored or even distorted. That's why insight happens when someone connects a new idea to an existing map. That's also why forcing change never works. We all like the maps that we've created, and being forced down a new route will almost always be met with pushback. Now, think about this. Thinking takes energy. Thinking is biologically expensive. The brain consumes around 20% of the body's energy even at rest, so it prefers habits, shortcuts, and familiar patterns. This creates behavioral inertia. People repeat what they already know, even when it's no longer effective. That's why telling somebody to just think differently doesn't work. However, when someone has an aha moment, something changes. Insight releases energy, motivation follows, and action becomes possible. Great leaders don't supply motivation. They unlock it by creating opportunities for somebody to make their own connections. Often the best advice isn't telling someone what to do. It's guiding their thinking so they can gain their own understanding. We can tell when an idea isn't our own. Now, our assumptions limit our ability to lead. We have to let go of the belief that any two brains are alike. Each human brain contains roughly 100 billion neurons, with trillions of possible connections. No two people have the same wiring, yet most of us assume if it makes sense to me, it should make sense to you. That assumption causes friction, resistance, and frustration. This book starts with a different assumption. People aren't resisting change, they're protecting their maps. Think about your own map. How many of those routes are so hardwired that it feels almost impossible to just change it on a whim? Now take the personal understanding and apply it to somebody else. Why do we expect others to change so quickly when we ourselves don't change very often? Now this has to do with automatic perception and how we see what we expect. The brain often predicts before it perceives. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as our past experiences prepared us to see it. That's why sometimes we miss obvious details. We hear what we expect. We fill in gaps without realizing it. Have you ever had the trick where a giant number with over 10 digits is displayed before you and you really only pay attention to the first and last few? We don't spend energy on something we aren't viewing as useful. Once a mental filter is in place, the brain actively searches for the evidence to support it. This is why arguments don't change minds, data rarely convinces, and people fight to defend their views. You're not debating facts. You're challenging identity-level wiring. To understand how we think, we need to acknowledge the map that exists within our minds. To understand how someone else thinks, we need to acknowledge the map that exists in their mind. What are the chances someone else has the same map? Slim to none. Now, this also lends itself for why habits are so hard to break. Here's a critical insight from the Quiet Leadership book. When you try and stop a habit and fail, your emotional reaction, frustration, shame, self-criticism, actually strengthens the original neural pathway, so the habit gets reinforced. This is why breaking habits feels impossible, and willpower often burns out quickly. The solution isn't breaking the habit, it's building a new one. New habits create new pathways, and over time, the old ones weaken naturally. Similar to a muscle not being worked, the muscle will atrophy. If a habit is currently strengthened, you need to find a new route. Maybe a habit to replace, or even identifying the thought process or map that typically leads to the habit you're trying to break. To better understand a habit, you need to understand yourself. Break down the why behind the behavior. An exercise I do often with people and clients involves 5 simple questions. Why? Ask yourself why you want to do, change, or attempt something. Now write down the answer. Then ask yourself why about the answer you just put. Do this a total of 5 times. Often it takes 2 to 3 whys before a legitimate answer is formed. Now, here's something a little more hopeful. Neuroplasticity. The brain can change. Neuroplasticity means new behaviors create new connections. Repetition strengthens those new connections. However, you need to be patient as time is required to solidify. Performance improvement doesn't come from fixing people. It comes from adding new routes to the map. Great leaders and great people stop trying to change people and start helping them think differently. Change is going to come with time and effort. This won't happen overnight. So give yourself and others the patience that's required to effectively change, adapt, and map out something new. Now, part 2. The 6 steps of quiet leadership. This framework is about feedback, coaching, influence, and overall performance. And it works because it aligns with how the brain naturally learns. Step 1. Think about thinking. Don't improve what people think. Improve how they think. Your role is not to provide answers. Your role is to create the conditions for insight. That means letting them do the thinking, helping them prioritize thoughts, and creating space for reflection. Now, there are 3 ways to do this. You can do insight now. Help them connect ideas in the moment. Or you can do insight later. Plant a question and let it mature. Don't demand an answer right away. Or the last one, self-directed insight. Invite their ideas first. Always orient this towards solutions, not problems. Problems lock attention on the past. Solutions build neural pathways toward the future. Now, where does growth actually happen? It comes from stretching. Stretching is thinking beyond our current ability. It's uncomfortable, frustrating, and awkward. That's not failure when you feel those things. That's neuroplasticity in action. Quiet leaders normalize discomfort, validate frustration, and encourage persistence. Most people stay inside their comfort zones. However, growth and neuroplasticity requires stepping just outside consistently. Also, you need to accentuate the positive. Research shows people receive far more criticism than acknowledgement, yet the brain learns faster from positive reinforcement. This positive reinforcement strengthens new wiring, builds confidence, and increases performance. So now, consider these feedback questions. What did you do well? What did you discover? What impact did that have? How can we do more of this? Help people see themselves differently, and positive behavior will follow. Now, step 2, listen for potential. We only hear what we're listening for. Most people are going to listen for errors, gaps, or problems. However, these quiet leaders listen for strengths, possibility, and emerging insight. Some useful questions that you can utilize is, how can I help you think this through? Would you like a sounding board? What direction feels right to you? Assume capability because the presence will unlock overall clarity. Step 3. Speak with intent. People avoid speaking clearly because they fear emotional fallout. There's 3 common mistakes. Maybe saying too much, being unclear, or using the wrong frame. Effectively speaking is succinct. It captures your attention. It's visual. You help the brain picture it. It's specific with just enough detail. And it's generous. It's both respectful and human in its thinking. When thinking about emails or utilizing this in the workplace, consider how it should fit on one screen. It should contain one core message, and it should avoid any emotional charge. Emotion deserves conversation, not text. Step 4. Dance toward the insight. Insight follows 4 stages. Dilemma, 2 conflicting mental maps. Reflection, silence with internal processing and understanding your own routes and your own map. Illumination, the energy spike and the clarity and motivation that comes from that aha moment. Then lastly, the motivation, the overall urge to act and create those new pathways. Silence matters. Reflection is not passive, it's neurological integration. Ask permission to dive further into specific answers. So use questions like, may I ask more about that? Would you like to explore this deeper? Insight is very personal. It needs to be handled carefully. Now, step 5, create new thinking. Now, there's going to be a couple of acronyms that we're going to use here. So this one is called the CREATE model. You need to understand their current reality. You need to help them understand real alternatives. Understand where the energy is being used, what action needs to happen, the timeline required for creating new thinking, and lastly, the overall execution. Now, step 6, another acronym. You got to follow up. Now, this one is using the word feeling, Feeling. Facts. What happened? Emotions. What did it feel like? Encouragement. Always reinforce the effort. Learning. What did you notice? Implications. What's different now? And lastly, new goals. What's next? There's no shame in the new thinking. There's no shame in the new process. It's not micromanaging. It's just learning and relying on that forward motion. In closing, quiet leadership isn't passive, it's precise. It respects how the brain works. It creates insight instead of resistance, and it turns thinking into performance. Stop fixing behavior and start unlocking thinking. That's where change actually happens.